Some of you may or may not remember this topic that I'm about to bring to you in the form of a pre-recorded video, but the first time I talked about these two degenerates was in the form of a live stream. These are the two individuals, in case you forgot, that held their adopted black children in a shed in West Virginia and basically held them as slaves. They basically enslaved them. Well, now an update has come a couple weeks later after I've done this, basically saying that they felt they had did nothing wrong to these kids, and they basically pled guilty. No, I'm sorry, not guilty. They pled not guilty to all charges that are being held against them. So they're right there telling you they're not even taking accountability for their actions, but they are the same ones that sit there and tell us not to be held accountable for our actions or to take accountability for our actions. They are even saying that they are unfairly being made out to be monsters, even though the details, or as they call it, the devil is in the details. But they want, you know what, let me just go ahead and get into the article. Friends and relatives of a white West Virginia couple accused of locking their adopted black children in a barn and allegedly forcing them to work as slaves are rallying to their defense. Why am I not surprised? Claiming the husband and wife are the least racist people around. Now, this is a statement coming from their friends and relatives. Of course they would feel that way. They probably wish to find out their methods so they could do the same thing to some adopted black kids or to some black kids themselves, if they aren't already doing it. I would investigate these so-called friends and family. Donald Lantz, age 63, and Jeanne Whitefeather, age 62, of Sissonville, remain in South Central Regional Jail on charges of child abuse after a wellness check at their Cheyenne Lane farmhouse last year led to discovery of two of the couple's 5 adopted children living in deplorable conditions. Both parents have pleaded not guilty to multiple charges of human trafficking of a minor child, use of a minor child in forced labor, and child neglect, creating a substantial risk of serious bodily injury or death. Back in October, investigators found 2 of the couple's black children, a 14-year-old boy and 16-year-old girl, inside a ramshackle storage shed on the back of the property, which had no working lights or running water and fitted with a door that locked from the outside. That alone, right there, if you didn't hear any other detail besides that, should have automatically let you know what type of people these individuals were. If you didn't know any of the other details that precede that, but you just knew that they were locking them up in a shed with no water, no lights for hours on end a day, where sometimes they probably ate once a day. Anything else that preceded that was just extra. That alone right there should have told you what type of time they were on. Despite the felony indictment against the couple, Whitefeather's brother, 60-year-old Marcus Hughes, maintained that the racially charged allegations against them didn't add up. How did they not add up? They only did this to the black children. And even if they did it to the other children, it should not have been done at all. Notice that they're only coming at it from the component of the racial aspect of it and not the actual abuse of the children themselves. Who treats children like that? Whether you adopted them or they're your own kids, biologically. See, they trying to be slick with it. The brother is quoted as saying, "They've been made out to be monsters," which isn't true, he told the Daily Mail. You're supposed to be innocent until you're found guilty. Well, the thing is, it's kind of hard to say that they are innocent, that they literally have all the details there to show and all the signs point that they are very guilty of what they did. Nothing they are doing would constitute them to be innocent by any means. Hughes suggested that the couple's charitable work on behalf of black children had incensed the community. This is what we call being on code, everyone. This is the brother of the woman saying this. This is the brother saying this. Of course he's going to come to her defense, but at the expense of basically lowering the experience and what these black kids had to go through. He's quoted as saying, Just because nobody told her side of the story doesn't make her guilty, he added. There were issues in the neighborhood because white people are raising black kids. No, that's not the issue. So now he's trying to flip it as, oh, because they're white and they happen to be having adopted black kids, then that was the problem. No, that wasn't the problem. The problem is that they locked them up in the shed. The problem was they had no running water. The problem was they had no lights. The problem was they ate maybe once a day. The problem was they treated them as slaves. The problem was is that they abused them verbally and probably physically for months, maybe longer. And the fact that the brother is sitting up there and basically dismissing all of that shows that he's a piece of shit just like his sister is. Police also found a third child identified as a 9-year-old black girl who was confined to a loft inside the main house, away from the presence of the adults and isolated from her other siblings. The couple's 2 remaining adopted children are 11 and 6 years old. All 5 of the couple's adopted children are now in the care of the state. Hughes says they haven't been told where the kids are and how they are doing. Good. Y'all don't need to know. Why would you need to know? The fact that you even said this in defense of your sister lets us know you don't need to know where these kids are. Because the thing is, what if they did find out where these kids, what are you going to do? Go and try to get them? Honestly, they might be in better hands, in better care of the state than with them. And that's saying a lot coming from me, considering I don't like when kids end up in the care, if you want to call it that, of the state, because even that's not even the best conditions. But honestly, they can't do them any worse than they've already been done by these 2 monsters that you see on your screen. He also mentions that authorities won't let the family provide clothes and toys for the children. Well, my thing is, y'all knew that they had these kids in these conditions. Y'all had to have known. Why weren't you trying to provide toys and clothes to them then? Better yet, why weren't you trying to get them out of these conditions? Because notice so far, and I've read majority of this article so far, they didn't mention that they didn't know that these kids was living in these conditions, which alludes to me that they knew how they were living. So that just makes them again as bad as these 2. He said the family is no longer supporting adoption due to the accusations, noting they moved from Washington in search of a normal life. How is this a normal life? How? And again, like people alluded to in the live that I did about them when I first brought y'all to their attention. What were they living like when they were in Washington? That's what they need to investigate. What was their lives like before they came all the way to West Virginia? Because again, like I said in my live about them, to move from the state of Washington all the way on the West Coast to move all the way to West Virginia to the East Coast, that's a big move. That is a very big move. And unless you're about to tell me it's for a job or something along those lines, then suspicions are going to raise. And then you have what came out. Because nothing mentioned about them, moving for a business opportunity or for a job. None of that comes up because that's not what it was for. So I truly believe they should investigate what they were doing prior to moving to West Virginia. And then why did you move to that part of West Virginia? Because they already showed a picture of the house they were living in when they were in Washington. They were living in a pretty nice looking home that sat on acres of land. What was going on in that home? It goes on to say, we don't even know how to spell racist, Hughes exclaimed. Well, if you don't know how to spell racist at the age of 60, this brother of hers is making me pissed all over again. Like, he's saying all the triggering things, all the gaslighting things. What do you mean you don't know how to spell racist? So you telling me because you know how to spell it, which I believe is a lie, is this part the part where you're trying to tell me you don't know how to define it either? Insulting my intelligence, I see. He says it's just not part of the culture there. We're the least racist people around, and it's not who we are. And to be accused of that is just icky for our family. So you don't know how to spell racist, but you can understand the word as far as how to, I guess, in your way, improperly or try to, I don't know, improperly define it. This guy is weird. Okay, her brother is weird. I can see why now, like, the connection between the two. They need to look into him and his behavior as well, because he's giving off very odd behavior. Very weird vibes. Hughes said he has always supported law enforcement, but now said he was rethinking that stance, feeling that the couple was being railroaded by law enforcement because they were actually doing their jobs and going to get them. Yeah, this brother is a piece of shit. Probably, if not more than she is. He says, I'm a blue stripe guy. I've always backed the cops, but then we got to this. Oh, so now you back the cops. It makes you wonder. He was probably glad when people like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and so many other black people lost their lives to the cops. But now that you feel your brother-in-law and your sister are being railroaded because all they did was mistreat a couple of N-words, now you don't like them anymore. He says, this doesn't seem right. He says they just lied. It's not even a mistake. They're being held in jail based on information that's not true, even though they have all the documents and they have all the evidence. Before moving to West Virginia, the couple lived in Washington State, where neighbors called police on the couple after allegedly witnessing them mistreating their kids. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere now. This is some new information, because I said what was going on in that home prior to them coming to West Virginia. So now it's discovered that neighbors out there in Washington State called the police on them multiple times because of mistreating their kids. Now I'm going to assume that maybe these are their biological kids, because they hadn't adopted these black kids just yet. They didn't adopt them until they got to West Virginia. So this is before then, which would explain why they fled from Washington to West Virginia. And like, that's why I said that was a big move. It's not like they went from Washington to Oregon or Washington to California, or even maybe a couple of states over while still staying on the West Coast, maybe going to the Midwest. But they came from Washington all the way to West Virginia. That is a very big move. You're moving over 2 time zones. It says this seemingly prompted Lantz and Whitefeather to move 2,200 miles east to evade police and child welfare authorities. There it is. It's like I called it right down the middle. Several police reports from the family's time in Washington revealed additional disturbing details, including instances where 2 of their children ran away from home after the couple allegedly forced one child at gunpoint to remain in his room and used a bullwhip for discipline. A bullwhip. Now we all know what a bullwhip is and what it looks like. But the brother want to sit up there and make it seem like they're angels. That the police got it wrong, and that they're incompetent, and we don't even know how to spell racist. Well, like I said, at the age of 60, if you don't know how to spell a word like that, or that word in particular, then maybe I'm gonna use the terminology that you like to use on us on them. Maybe your IQ just isn't high enough. Daily Mail said its sources revealed that the couple packed their bags for West Virginia when they learned the sheriff's office in Okanogan County, Washington, was preparing to remove the couple's oldest son from the home for his safety. By October 2023, the family had moved to the ranch in Sissonville, West Virginia, where police rescued the children and arrested the parents after receiving a call there from a concerned neighbor. At their initial hearing in October, Lantz and Whitefeather pleaded not guilty, and Kanawha County Circuit Judge Mary Claire Akers set bond at $200,000 each, which should not have even been set. They should have had no bond. In early February, the couple sold their 80-acre property in Tonasket, Washington, near the Canadian border for $725,000 and signed over power of attorney to Hughes, who arraigned Bale, the brother who was making all those asinine comments. The couple was released that month to await trial. They remained free for several months, but in May, a grand jury indicted them on more than a dozen new charges, including human trafficking, which prompted Akers to revoke their lower bond and order the couple jailed again in lieu of $500,000 apiece. Along with human trafficking and neglect with serious risk of bodily injuries or death, I don't find the bond to be sufficient. The upgraded charges include alleged use of a minor child in forced labor, child neglect, creating a substantial risk of serious bodily injury or death, as well as false swearing and potential civil rights violations based on color, race, or ancestry. The indictment suggests that 3 of the 5 children were black and were adopted from a shelter for homeless and vulnerable. The human rights charges stem from those children being specifically targeted and forced to work because of their race. A small toilet seat torn from an RV was placed in the barn for the children to share whenever they had to go to the bathroom. Now listen to that. They said a torn seat, a small torn seat at that, torn from an RV was used in case whenever the kids had to go to the bathroom. I don't know if anyone has ever seen or been inside of an RV, but it's not the most spacious thing depending on the RV that you're in. It's nice, but it's not a home either. That's just basically used for travel purposes. A close friend of Whitefeather, Darren Wise, also came to her defense. Oh, here we go, another one. Now here's a friend. Now mind you, these are all people connected to her. So first we had the brother, and now we have a friend, claiming the allegations were completely untrue. The family was treated horribly, he told the Daily Mail. Did Jeanne and Don make a mistake leaving? Probably. I wouldn't deny that, but the allegations, I don't see how they can be accurate. It's like, all the evidence is there. Did y'all not go visit? Did you not have their address? Did you not have their number to say, you know what, I'm gonna come over and just see how y'all doing, you and the kids? How is it that the neighbors could see what was going on, but people closest to them didn't see it, such as her brother and this friend? Both of them are full of shit. Wise suggested that Lantz and Whitefeather were not well liked in the neighborhood. Jeanne had expressed to me that some of the neighbors in West Virginia weren't as welcoming as they had anticipated or expressed them to be, which is why they were in the process of moving. So they were about to leave again. This is West Virginia, not Washington. They were about to leave again. And here you have her telling this story of, oh, the neighbors aren't warming up to us, so we might be, hitting the old dusty trail again. No, that's not why they didn't like you. It's because they knew they probably didn't like you when they discovered what you were doing, but they found out what you were doing to these kids. Y'all were acting very weird. And the thing is, I'm just like this. If you see parents like that acting weird like that, don't hesitate to not make a move. It's a reason why they're moving kind of shaky like that. It's because they're doing something very nefarious in the background, on the back end. Previously, during the second bond hearing, Whitefeather explained that the barn where the children were found was a quote-unquote teenage clubhouse and maintained that the children were not actually locked inside. But neighbors disputed this claim, saying that the children were forced to perform farm labor and were not permitted inside the residence, the indictment states. When rescued, the 16-year-old girl informed deputies that they had been locked in the barn for approximately 12 hours and had last eaten around sunrise. According to Burdett, the children locked inside cannot exit the shed, so deputies had to force their way into the shed. Deputy H.K. Burdett entered the shed, and they immediately noticed a disturbing smell and a wave of heat due to the lack of circulating air. Both children appeared feral and dirty, reeking of body odor, while the boy had open sores on his bare feet. Now, to the brother and to this friend that claimed that these are good people, explain to me your definition of good people, especially to that brother, since you don't know how to spell races. You probably don't know how to spell good people either, nor know how to define it. And I'm just speaking rhetorically. The children told investigators they were forced to sleep on a bare concrete floor with no mattress or covers. Police remained at the house for 3 hours before Lantz arrived home with an 11-year-old boy. When authorities checked the home for other potential victims, they found the 9-year-old holed up in the loft, and Lantz was placed under arrest. About an hour later, Whitefeather returned home and guided deputies to another 6-year-old girl who was visiting with another couple from their church. During the latest bond hearing, Kanawha County prosecutors argued that the couple's original cash bonds were likely obtained through trafficking profits, pointing to the fact that the couple produced the $400,000 bond despite a lack of obvious means to do so. And I was just asking that. These individuals did not work. So that just showed you that this is how they made their money, was through trafficking. They said they produced that $400,000 bond without any records showing of any type of, like taxes through work, any type of employment, or any type of businesses that they were doing that were legit. They got it through human trafficking. That's how they made their money, was through trafficking these kids. At the same proceeding, Lantz and Whitefeather claimed they processed no income or assets, raising questions about the sources of the funds for their bond. Kanawha County Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Christopher K, because I can't pronounce his last name, characterized the money posted for the couple's release as contraband directly or indirectly used or intended for use to violate human trafficking laws. Chris said they have since sold the Sissonville home where they were arrested for $295,000. See, like I said, they was getting ready to move again. All those funds have been seized by the court as potential profits from human trafficking, rendering them inaccessible to the defendants. Prosecutors argue that even if the bond money came from legitimate sources, its use was intended to further human trafficking and forced labor operations. Akers also remarked that the case was unlike any other she had heard during her entire career as a judge. It alleges human trafficking, human rights violations, the use of forced labor. Akers said, according to reports, human rights violations specific to the fact that these children were targeted because of their race and they were used basically as slaves from what the indictment alleges. Both Lantz and Whitefeather pleaded not guilty to the new charges in the indictment, however they remain in jail as they have been unable to meet the higher bond amount. That's because they seized all their money. Their next court appearance is scheduled for September the 9th. Man, that was a lot. That was a lot. Between her brother and this friend, those two right there pissed me off the most in this entire article. Probably a little bit more than them two already, because we already knew their story. Of course, now through this, we also learned why they left Washington, because that was something that we were trying to figure out when we first talked about them. Now we know why they left, which was not surprising. They were abusing their kids there. People was concerned there, and that they fled 2,200 miles, that's a lot of miles, from Washington to West Virginia to basically do the same thing. And then they want to sit up there and pretend like people didn't like them because they thought that whatever they thought, they just thought that we're being mean to them for whatever reason, but it's because they knew what was up. And then we also find out that they were planning to leave again, but they got caught this time, and now they got them. But like I said, for something like this, they should not have a bond. I don't care if you don't think they can pay it or not. Something like this, because they should not be out as far as out of a jail cell. So the next time we'll talk about this, unless anything comes up between now and September, will be around September the 9th. I have to make sure to put that in my memory bank, or someone needs to thoroughly remind, but I think I'm, with the Discord, I don't think I'll have a problem with that. But this story right here is absolutely crazy. And now that we got a little bit more details, it's even more wild. So it makes you wonder what else is going to come out when they go to court, because this is definitely going to trial. It should be an open and shut trial, to be quite honest with you, because with all that evidence there, who would be dumb enough, and I'm saying this just kind of in a rhetorical way, because I know what we're dealing with, but who would be dumb enough to find these two not guilty? Who would be dumb enough not to convict them? With all the evidence that is there, it should be pretty obvious that these two deserve a long time behind. And I say a long time because I know they probably won't get life. I would be genuinely shocked if they did. But they should definitely get, if they don't give them life, if it was up to me, they would get no less than 50 years each. That way, by the time, they get done, well, the world will probably be done in the physical realm.